tastes coming out of Enie's kitchen today are the same that our family savored in the 1930s. The times were difficult, but the food was surprisingly delicious. Join us for Cooking from the 30s. Shalom and welcome. As you can see, I'm cooking in this wonderful kitchen today at one of my friends' home. Isn't this beautiful? You know, it's the all-white look again. I can't believe it, how things just go in circles and come around. In the last years, we've had all the colored kitchens, but now the white kitchens are back. Do you remember your grandmother's kitchen? Wasn't it pretty white? So we're coming back full circle to all of these wonderful things that happened then. And just the other day, I picked up this wonderful cookbook. It's called the Sentinel Jewish Cookbook. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it was written in 1935, and it was put out by the Sentinel magazine, which is a Jewish weekly from Chicago. Look at the small size of this book. And if I tell you that there are maybe 2 or 3 recipes on each page, you'll realize that the procedures are certainly much different than what we use today. In fact, you have to take into consideration that ovens were not calibrated the way they are today. So in the procedure, when they say cook until done, it means cook until done. They weren't so explicit about the size of pans. Today, if we're going to make a cake, we want it to be exact. And the way that is going to come out correctly is if you use the proper size pan. Otherwise, it's going to make a big difference. But when cooking in the 30s, you had to really fool around with it a little bit and try it. And even some of the amounts of the size of the measurements were different. Let me read something to you. Did you ever hear of 1 gill? G-I-L-L. A gill is 10 tablespoonfuls. Well, we would call that today 1/3 of a cup, but it was known as 1 gill. And here's another one I think is marvelous. 1 dessert spoonful. 1 dessert spoonful was 2 tablespoons. Now you see, that sets up a little differently than what we have today. And the way the ingredients are set, just looking through the book, you get a feeling of something else. What were we talking about in the 1930s? We were talking about the Depression. And so the book is set with the kind of foods that we really use then to make do. And it's not anything that were frozen, remember? Can you imagine a time when you didn't have frozen lemon juice or frozen vegetables? It was just back to basics. And the more I see today when I walk into the supermarket, I'm seeing the same thing again. It's really back to basics. And in the meat section, they were using the types of meats that were not quite as expensive because the Depression warranted that. And one of the things that I thought was really fun was a tongue, a sweet and sour tongue. Now I know the first thing you're going to say to me is, Eenie, are organs kosher? Yes, they are all kosher. Liver and tongue and brains and lung and all of them are kosher, except of course, it must come from a kosher animal. Now we are going to start with this tongue, and they usually run somewhere between 3 and 4 pounds. That's about what this is. It's about 3.5 pounds. And you take the whole tongue and you put it into about 3 quarts of water. Let's take a large pot, and we're going to put it in there and cook it for about 2.5 to 3 hours. After that, you'll take it out and you'll skin it. The way the skin looks now, you're going to say, oh, I'll never be able to get it off. But you'll see this is going to turn white, and it'll come off easily. So take your tongue and put it into your pot. Turn this on all the way up to boiling. After it boils, then bring it down to simmer and let it set for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Now, in order to give it some flavor, we're going to add into it 2 tablespoons of pickling spices. Ooh, that's going to make it good. And, of course, an onion, a sliced onion. So you'll let that set in here for about 2.5 to 3 hours until it really gets soft. And you can tell when it's soft by just taking a fork and just poking it a little bit, and you'll see it'll be soft. Now we're going to make a very nice sauce with it. And to make the sauce, take a smaller pot. And, oh, this is wonderful. You know what they call this in here? They call this the liquor. So take some of the liquor off of here. And, of course, be sure that you keep some of those pickling spices and onion that you've already put in there. And put this into a pot that's a little bit smaller so that we can make a lovely sweet and sour sauce to go over it. If you just eat it that way, it's still delicious. Now we're going to add to this 1/4 cup of raisins. Already you like it? Already it has that good flavor. Of course, I'm into raisins. Now we're going to take 1/4 cup of vinegar. And it'll be a little bitter, so let's try about 1/2 tablespoon of sugar. And here we have lemon. And since there was no frozen lemon juice, so I really got you this time, you're going to have to use the fresh. Take a nice fresh lemon and squeeze it and put the lemon juice right in here. Now cook this for about 10 or 15 minutes. Mix it up and cook it for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then add the secret ingredient, ginger snaps. Ah, this is going to be wonderful. You don't even have to break them up because they will melt right into this. And you'll see after this cooks down for about 10 or 15 minutes, it's going to set like this. Now I wish we had smell-o-vision because this sauce is absolutely wonderful. And we'll put the sauce into a side dish that you can serve it as a side dish, or what I like to do also is to put some of it right onto our tongue. So here is our wonderful tongue that has been cooked. It's been taken out, it's been sliced, and now we'll pour a little bit of this sauce on it for serving. And in the middle, Jack loves mustard. He loves the Dijon mustard, so we had to put some of that on. So add some of that if you like, or if you want to serve this as an appetizer, here, doesn't this look nice? You bring this out as an appetizer. Or perhaps you're just into a plain old tongue sandwich at the deli. If that's the case, be sure you go to Sennett's Deli. If you're in the Chicago area, Sennett's Deli and Stage Delicatessen is in Wilmette. And it's one of the wonderful places owned by the family that we are visiting today. So I know that you'll love it, either our sweet and sour tongue as an entree or as an appetizer.
For a copy of Enie's recipes, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Enie's Kitchen in care of WJUF, 1 South Franklin Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. That's Enie's Kitchen, WJUF, 1 South Franklin Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Please include the show number with your recipe request.
The ethnic mix in our country is what is really very special and makes the conglomeration of all of our peoples and nationalities and races together so wonderful. You know, if I were going to cook a chicken cacciatore or egg fouillon, I could go to Betty Crocker, but wouldn't it be more wonderful to go into one of the ethnic cookbooks? And it's the same in so many other things, that our people live in areas of this country where they still retain some of the beauty and feeling for their people. And so it is with the Jewish community. In practically every city of our country, There are special magazines or books that have to do with the community life. And I was just going to show you a few. This one is from Atlanta. This is put out, Atlanta has a very large Jewish community. And here's another one that comes from Long Island, from New York. Now the New York Jewish community is almost 2 million. And here's one that comes from Chicago. The Chicago is almost 250,000. Chicago and Los Angeles. And here is the Sentinel. I wanted to show this to you because this is the magazine that I just told you we're taking the recipes from today. The Sentinel has been in publication since 1911. And it has community interest, it has activities that are going on as well as things that are going on in Israel or political affairs or social events that are taking place within synagogue life. And that too tells us a great deal about it because that's what we do and it's a part of what our people in our country make it special. And as I look through the Sentinel cookbook, I was thinking what would be an interesting side dish to go with our tongue. And they had so many puddings and practically all made the same way and of course all fresh. And they call every side dish a pudding. Of course today what I did was kind of related a little bit to the food processor because we're going to do it a little faster, but you can still mix it very easily in a bowl. The orange pudding sounded wonderful. And I tried it, and so did Jack and the children, and they all said, yes, this really passes inspection. So we're going to start with 1/2 cup of parve margarine. And always remember now, before you put this into your food processor, always cut it into a few pieces, about 6 or 7 pieces. And it should still be firm, but just cut it up first. And you must add a dry ingredient when you add that. So I have 1/2 cup of sugar. Put that in the food processor for just 1 moment. And you see how quickly it blends? Now we're going to add to that 1 cup of flour. You can put it in all at once. Now we want 2 eggs. And of course, when we use eggs, we always check them to see that they can be used for kosher cooking. Because if there's any blood in the egg, that would not be allowed according to the laws of kashrut. So here we have 1 egg. We'll put 1 in at a time. Oh, and I think that this really needs a little baking powder. About 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder will be enough. And now we'll check our 2nd egg to be sure that that's all right. Put it in carefully. Be sure that the first one is already beaten through when you put the 2nd one. And now for the oranges. And as we've said, we're definitely back to basics. So we're going to take it right from the real orange. There's nothing better than you have a wonderful feeling here. Look at this. We have the nice orange rind that we're taking right off of the orange so that you know it's so fresh. And when you taste it, you'll feel it. You'll feel that wonderful smell and that wonderful taste of an orange. And if you have the Israeli oranges, the Jaffa oranges, they're marvelous. In our country, oranges are 12 months a year, and we always have them. So take them off of there, and then take your 2 oranges and squeeze them very lightly. And they squeeze so nicely. I hope that you do this for breakfast, because it's really the way to start your children. They should start in with their orange juice and always feel it, because it's a great feeling. And I think when we were in Spain, we felt, you know, in Spain, the waters are a little different than in Portugal. And so the orange rind has a different flavor to it. If you've ever tried the orange marmalades from that country, you'll see that it has a different flavor to it. Then we're going to add our orange rind and our orange juice, blend it in, and pour this into a bowl that's about 8 inches. I have one here that's just about 8 inches. And we'll pour it in, put it in the oven for about 25 or 30 minutes. This is not going to take very long. About 25 minutes will really be enough in a 350 oven. And you'll see when it comes out, it's going to look like this. And it really is delicious. So you can try it in any size bowl that you really want to use, and you'll see that that's going to work out fine. And one of the other things that they suggested, and I thought this was funny, they call it a Neapolitan salad. What is a Neapolitan salad? To us, really, it's coleslaw. And what they did was they put some cabbage in, and of course that's very easy to put through. Just put that right through your food processor because that's what makes it easier. Take it out of here and put it into a nice bowl. And I have a nice yellow bowl right here that I think just works out fine. And to this, we're going to add, I've got a half a cup of celery, and I have about 2 tablespoons of red pepper, and I have 2 tablespoons of green pepper, and I have, you know, they always use pimento. I don't think we use it quite as much today because, you know, if you cook with me all the time, it's fresh is best. But it does give it a nice flavor. Here we have red pepper, and I think that a good thing to add is a little celery salt. It really is a good celery seed, celery salt, add that to it. And they use pineapple. Here we have a whole cup of pineapple chunks. And to make it a nice dressing, let's add about, I've got about a half a cup of mayonnaise here, and I'm just going to thin it out with a little pineapple juice because I think that will thin it down a little bit. Otherwise, it's a little too thick. You see, they're very basic in all of the mayonnaise and everything that they use. So you can see, we'll just take this and mix it through, put it in a nice serving bowl. And this is a very refreshing salad to serve with the tongue and with a nice orange pudding. I think you're going to enjoy this and see how easy it is. And I think that celery seed even gives it a nice look. So here we have a very nice salad to go along with our tongue.
For a copy of Enie's recipes, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Enie's Kitchen in care of WJUF, 1 South Franklin Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. That's Enie's Kitchen, WJUF, 1 South Franklin Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Please include the show number with your recipe request.
Now, what are we going to have for dessert? I looked through the Sentinel cookbook and thought they had some interesting pies. They were definitely into pies. They liked that better than anything. And they were basically made the same way. But this one really hit my fancy. And when I first made it, my neighbors, you know, I always try everything on them, took a look and said, "It's apple pie." I said, "No, this pie has a most unique flavor. It's fig and lemon. And of course, it's all fresh. But it's interesting the way you make the filling." Now, first of all, we're going to take 2 tablespoons of flour and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and add to that 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and put that over a double boiler. And add to this 1 3/4 cup of boiling water. Just pour it right on. And now you have to watch this carefully because this should go for about 15 minutes. Just let this keep going, stir it or beat it on very low for about 15 minutes. At the end of that time, we're going to add to it 2 eggs. But I want you to just take the eggs and beat them very lightly, just a moment before you put them in. So we'll put them in our egg checker first to be sure that they're all right. Here we have 1 egg, and that one is fine. And a second egg, and that one is fine. And just beat them a little bit before you add it to that. Now add this to your mixture and beat that in carefully. Just beat it in a little bit, and so it blends in. Now we're going to add to that figs. And I have a half a cup of figs, but I want you to be sure to use the California. You see how soft these are? Not the ones that come on the string. They're too hard. These are wonderful. They're from California, and they're so soft. Be sure you cut off the top, and I just cut them in half. I have about a half a cup of figs right here. Put it through the... and add this right into your mixture. Oh, this is going to give this pie such a good flavor. You're not going to believe the whole thing. Just add it right in to your mixture. And we're also going to add a little lemon. Now we have here the juice of 2 lemons, but we want the rind of 1 lemon because we want this to have this nice rind feeling. And be sure that you only get the top rind, because if you get this pith inside, that's very bitter. So just take the rind from the outside and add that in. We're going to add it right in to our bowl. And here we have the juice of 2 lemons, which we have already squeezed already, because this is definitely not the can type. This is fresh lemon juice. And again, we'll beat this in here for a few minutes just to be sure that it is mixed well. Just a little bit. And I think this will have to go just for a few minutes until the consistency will come out like this. Now make a crust for a double pie, because we want to have a lattice on the top. So get your pie going. Here's a half of it. And what I like to do before I pour something into a pie, if it's a pie that has a loose kind of a filling, is I always take either a little breadcrumbs or matzo meal or something and just sprinkle a little over the bottom. I think that that makes sure that when you take it out, it'll be nice and dry. Now then, we're going to pour in our filling. And this is a very nice filling. You can really smell the figs and the lemons in it. And make your lattice work. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. And if you've never made the lattice, then I suggest the best thing to use and the best tool in the kitchen is your ruler. Take your ruler and measure your pie. This is a 10-inch pie plate. When you always use a little flour on here to be sure that it's going to come out right. And when you push it out, be sure that you have measured it so that each piece is going to be able to set right. Now, in order to be sure that your lattice work is going to stick, the thing that you have to do, and here's a secret that they don't tell you in advance, but I'm going to tell you, you must glue it together. And we're going to glue it with a little egg white. Take a little egg white and just go around the edges. Now, when you put your lattice work on, this is going to not only stick, but it's going to give it a nice shine. And you know, I try not to use a lot of gadgets. I say that isn't necessary, but this is one great gadget that I really like. And it'll cut it right down. And if you're unsure about how to get it to be the right size, again, use your ruler, because it works every time. It's the best thing that you can do. And if the first ones are a little bit short, when you pick it up, they'll go on the side. Then your next one is going to be a little bit longer, and that'll go down here and go all the way across. After you've gone across, then start to go the other way. But first, be sure that, again, you take your egg white and just brush it. Brush the whole thing across so that when you turn it, turn your pie after you've done the whole one side. I'm not going to do the whole side. I just wanted to show you how to do it. To pick it up and go across again. You see, that's how the lattice work works. And then you'll take your pie, put it and do the top of it again. Brush the top of it, put it in a 350 oven for about a half an hour. And when it comes out, I know you're going to love it, because it's going to look exactly like this one right here. Well, look at how pretty this looks. We had something like this when we were in Canada. Oh, Jack and I just had a wonderful trip to Canada. We love to travel with friends, and we did. We traveled with some very dear friends. We went up to Canada and we saw some marvelous things. But coincidentally, the day before we left, I saw our neighbors. And they said they were going to Montreal. I said, we are too. But we weren't able to get together. But when we came back, I said, Bruno, did you happen to get any pictures when we got off the subway to go to the synagogue as we were walking down the street? And you know, it's interesting. When you start walking into these streets, first we passed the kosher butcher, so we knew we were in the right area. Then we passed the Jewish bookstore and we went in there, and we got to the Portuguese Spanish synagogue. And this is a beautiful place. Here it is at the bottom. On the top is like the YMHA, but this is the beautiful synagogue. And these people are descended from the Portuguese Spanish people, Jews, who lived in Spain during the Inquisition in 1492. And so we walked in, and as we walked in, there was a wonderful man who took us around and gave us a tour. And although everything is the same, the shape of the Torahs in a Sephardic synagogue, and those Jews who live along Morocco or Iran, Iraq, Spain, the shape of the Torahs is a little different. And if you can see it here, it comes to a point and then opens up, instead of the traditional kind that you may see so many times that are covered with perhaps a needlepoint cover. And then to show you how it looks, look over here, and you can really see this is a very beautiful ark that holds the Torahs. And this is all handmade. This was brought to Montreal many, many hundreds of years ago, and now there's a rebirth. As the people from Morocco and Iran are coming to this part of the world, they are coming to Montreal and are coming into this synagogue, which is home to them. And I felt that that was really special. From there, we went to meet our friends at a deli, and we had a tug sandwich. So that reminded me of the home menu today. So I hope that you're going to try this, to look at some of the things that we used to cook, and to think of our brethren who really live all over the world and are still studying the same Torah, the same Talmud, are talking the same Hebrew, are reading the same books. It was that moment that Jack and I felt as we walked into this very, very beautiful synagogue. And we've tried today to make some of the things that were cooked in the 30s, and I think that you'll enjoy trying them. Now this is a sweet and sour tongue, and on it I have put some of the sauce, but we will also serve some of it individually. And here we have the orange pudding. That is really delicious, and it has a very orangey flavor, as you'll see when you start to serve it. And this is what they call Neapolitan salad. I think in today's life we would just plain call it coleslaw. And here's our wonderful fig and lemon pie. And figs, of course, again, are something that go back to ancient times. The fig tree, the fig leaf, the whole feeling. We know that the fig tree grows in the part of the world where Israel is. And I hope that you will think about it when you make this wonderful dinner as we think about our brethren throughout the world. Shalom.